But the Yankees signed someone, Marcus Stroman. Of course, we talked about it last week. I think we hung up and he signed. That's
Yeah,
just how
that's how this goes. Yeah.
that's how it goes. Congrats to Blake Snell tomorrow on signing wherever you sign. Um, but yeah, he signed with the Yankees. Very interested to see how that goes. But I'm also not going to act like I wouldn't have welcomed him with open arms on the Red Sox. And even for the Yankees, he slides in as like your number 3, which is
More
perfect.
or less. Yeah. I mean, I made my thoughts known about Marcus Stroman, but stripping away any of the he's a loser stuff, it the amount of conversation about this signing is weird and also understandable at the same time, because obviously I get the history, and he was going, Twitter fingers and going at Yankee management, blah 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 blah. Trying to get the attention of the girl that don't want him, basically. Like, yeah, that's what he was doing for like 4 years. So I understand why the conversation is what it is. But if you just remove the narratives, it's the most boring signing you could find. He's a number 3 starter. They paid him for 2 years. It's as boring, straightforward as it can get. It makes sense. They didn't commit to him long term. They committed reasonable dollars to him. It wasn't anything crazy. I mean, not that I care about dollars on a 2-year deal any fucking way, but they do. So good for them, I guess. You win, Hal. Great. It was 2 years, $38 million in this market, and I saw several people call it desperate. I'm like, what 2-year deal has ever been desperate? Number one, maybe let's start there. What 2-year deal has ever been desperate? I would need somebody to give me a 2-year deal that's desperate. Number two, in this market, they got an established mid-tier starter for $18 million or $19 million a year, whatever it was. And I'm not even criticizing Boston for this because I understand why they did it. They paid somebody who gave up 175 home runs last year, $20 million. I hit a home run off of Lucas Giolito last year. They paid him $20 million. Was that desperate too? I don't think it was, personally. So
Definitely
desperate
was.
how?
For the Red Sox,
okay,
I think anytime and we'll get to it. I think anytime the Red Sox sign anybody, it's desperate at this point. Like, I don't.
All right, that was not the best.
That has
example,
nothing to do with
especially,
your overarching point about Stroman.
Oh yeah. The Red Sox were not the best team to use, especially given what was said yesterday. We will get to that
They kept
in
saying
a bit.
stuff. They just
But
keep
but listen, man, it was a good baseball sighting. It was a boring one, and quite frankly, if he pitches like he usually pitches, I'll stay quiet. And if he doesn't, and if he pitches anywhere near like Carlos Rodon did last year, my Twitter account is going to be nasty. That's all I'm going to say about that, really.
But even like if Stroman turns into Rodon, which there's nothing pointing to that happening, like you just said, it's a 2-year deal. Rodon's there
right.
the rest of his life. Like, that's much more alarming than if Stroman's just turns into a pumpkin in New York, which he has pitched in New York. The one thing, I understand people talking about it because fucking nothing's happened this offseason. You need, of course, they're going to talk about it. They're going to overanalyze every goddamn move that happens. And with this one, the one thing that bothered me, because I saw Red Sox fans saying it, of course, I've seen Yankee fans saying it. It's like, oh, when he played for a different team in the division, he said things that went against my team. You know, fucking shit, dude. Like, what are we talking about? Like,
don't get me wrong. It was an excessive level of meat writing, even for a division rival. So if one wants to point at that, fine. But it's like, I can't get behind this guy. He said big mean things. I don't give a fuck that he was dick riding back then. That's his problem. I think he's a fucking loser. Like, I've established this already. What he said about Brian Cashman 2019 has so little to do with 2024. And then I saw people saying like, oh, what changed? He said he wasn't a difference maker back then. What changed now? Bro, he paid him $18 million in this market. I think Brian Cashman, if you ask him now, away from microphones, will tell you, yeah, I still don't think he's a fucking difference maker, but we need somebody. We need somebody to eat innings. That's what they needed, and they got somebody to fucking eat innings. So here we are. But yeah, that whole, I can't root for this guy because he said big mean things about Luis Severino. Who gives a fuck what he said about Luis Severino, bro? That was 5 years ago, and Luis Severino ain't here no more. Who
Right.
cares? Well, sorry, he is here. He's across town. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a Yankee anymore. Who cares?
Yeah, and when you look at like the Severino deal, the Frankie Montas deal, he makes a little bit more than them, and he's better than them. So
Right.
that's where it's like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And far less risky.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
as far as pitchers go, because obviously we know the
And
risk that comes with them, but still.
sure. Yeah. Is he going to be allowed to wear a do rag, or is George going to resurrect from the dead?
Hey man, I tweeted that. I tweeted a video of. Sorry, I tweeted the Hulk Hogan meme with him drawing the N, and I was like, "This is George Steinbrenner looking up from hell when Marcus Stroman takes him out of Yankee Stadium with the durag on." Um, that would be. I hope he is. Honestly, I'll never slander him again if he wears a durag. The first start, like I don't care if
I
it's
was going to say, yeah,
start,
let's calm down.
15 start,
Let's not make promises we can't keep.
the first start, I'll leave him alone. If he wears a durag, come out there with a durag on the first start, I'll leave him alone until further notice. I'll leave him alone. But yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, George is definitely not happy.
I don't see why he wouldn't.
I mean, there are no rules against it. Like,
oh, they'll draw those up real quick. But that's not a doubt in my mind.
We've got no rules against
they slipped it like section
no ethnic
12.
hair scarves.
In his contract specifically, they're not going to make a team rule, but they slid it into his contract, hoping he was skimming through it real quick. It's like page 12, Article G, and it's just like, yeah, weird, yeah, interesting.
No ethnic hair scarves are allowed here. No ethnic hair scarves are allowed here. Then he go wear it. They're gonna be like, "Yo, this is a contract violation." She's like, "What? Where?" Then they'll be like, "Yo, page 12, section H." No ethnic hair scarves. You know what you did. There it is. Read the contract next time. Don't be mad at me.
Yeah, that'll happen immediately. I'm sure of it. But the Yankees signed him, and what they signed Jordan Vandersloot. Who's the other fucking guy they signed?
Josh Van Meter. And
same thing.
Yeah, listen, to show you. You hit me. We were talking about what we were going to talk about today. You hit me at I hit you at 4:30 or so. You're like, yeah, we could talk about that slapdick guy the Yankees signed for 20 minutes. First of all, I didn't even know who you were talking about. First of all, second of all, it took. I responded in 10 minutes, not because I wasn't in front of my phone, but because I had to search for who they signed and had to find it because it wasn't on CBS, wasn't on Yahoo. I was like, who? I don't even remember where the fuck I found it. But
I don't know where I even
signed
saw
Josh Van Meter. I'm like, okay, I've heard the name before. That's nice. That's cool. And also, and speaking of the Yankees and pitching, all these rumors with relievers. Listen, my head's going to explode if they pay some reliever big money. Stop.
Hector.
The Yankees have been getting relievers from local bodegas for 25 years. There's no reason to pay them big money for fucking what? Like I saw that they're linked to Hector Neris.
Yeah.
And he wants 3 years for 48 minutes. But first of all, we all want things. Number one, first of all, we all want things. You ain't getting that shit. No, like my hairline will be straight and good and crispy before he gets $48 million for 3 years. But that being said, I heard them linked to Josh Hader. I'm like, bro, listen, if I ever get a notification, the Yankees have signed Josh Hader 5 years for $95 million. Buddy, the next episode of this show will be an angry one. Well, it might be happy for you. I don't know. Maybe things will change in Red Sox land. I don't know. But it will be up really angry for me. Let me tell you.
There's no reason. Nothing that says anything is going to change on my end of the screen. But I also wouldn't come in here laughing if you signed a really good closer. I think he thinks he's elite. I think some people throw around elite with him. I think he's fine. Above average for sure.
You talking about Hader?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he is elite. How many closers are better?
Diaz for sure.
Right.
Duran for the Twins. I'm taking over him.
Felix Bautista is probably 3.
Bautista for sure. So that's where it's I think he's top 5.
Yeah. So he close enough. He got an argument for it. And I mean, cool. If he was coming way cheaper, fine. Or if they had traded for him 3 years ago, fine. $100 million. He wants $100 million. If you give him anywhere close to that, my head's going to explode on screen. There's no reason for it. None. Because you might just put the fucking $50 million extra, get Jordan Montgomery. What are we talking about? 60 or
Make him
whatever
the
the fuck is going to
closer,
cost.
I mean, speaking of closers who got paid, Mike McCarthy is returning. That's peculiar. Belichick said no thanks.
That's tough.
Jordan Hicks got $44 million from the Giants. To start, this is something the Cardinals have already tried.
They did.
Blew out his arm pretty much immediately. Blew out's putting it a little too strong, but he got hurt.
He got hurt. That did happen. Yes,
that was enough. I don't hate if the Giants are just like lying to him, but they still also are paying him $11 million a year, so they are definitely going to try it. I don't hate the idea, especially for a team like the Giants who try and play at the top of the market, never ever get anybody, and then. Like Hicks has an electric arm. I as a Red Sox fan, trust me, I've seen it before. I've seen Daniel Bard. I've seen what they're doing with Houck right now. I've seen what they're doing with Whitlock right now. I get the appeal. And 44, it's almost exactly what they gave Whitlock. Whitlock's wasn't I think it was 4 for 48, maybe even 6 for 48 now that I'm talking about it. But it wasn't even 48 guaranteed. It was like, yeah, if you're a starter this whole time, we'll gladly give you $48 million. If you're not, that's probably going to be closer to 30, and we're going to be giving you like 5 a year.
That's some old bullshit, man. But yeah.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. Like, you're getting a guy who's been a major league pitcher for 1 year. You're trying to it's the one time they've extended fucking anybody at the right time. And then they've just misused him for 2 years. I get trying it once. You want to try and be a starter once? Sure. Once it doesn't work, you really got to be like, all right, you're going back to the pen, this, that, and the third. They're like, no, we're going to try it again. Doesn't work again. We'll get to what they've talked about for the rotation as of yesterday. But I don't hate that the Giants are like, we lost Andrew Bailey. We still believe in everything we've built from a pitching side. Let's just get guys with a ton of talent. If this hits, we have a number 2 for swingman money. You know what I mean? Like it's not a heavy investment in a guy who at worst case can be a high leverage reliever.
That's pretty much exactly how I view it. It's a low cost risk that I feel like the downside here, I mean, besides the obvious injury, which that's every pitcher, just if he stays healthy, the downside is, okay, he's just a good closer instead, or a good high leverage reliever instead. And for $11 million, like, sure. But you know what I mean? But also, like, I think the Giants signing him kind of shows where we are with regards to pitchers and how many innings they pitch and where the game is. Definitely. Because if he turns into a guy who's giving you 4 2/3 innings good, like per start, or roughly there, that's still worth the $11 million. Even still, because guys use their bullpens more, especially like in playoff settings. You have teams using 5 and 6 man rotations. It kind of shows where we're at, and for somebody with that kind of stuff, as you said, it's a great risk to take. And they've done it before with him. It hasn't worked out. Listen, the chances of him actually starting 2-3 years from now are probably pretty low. But for somebody with that kind of stuff, saying, "Hey, man, we want to give you a chance to pitch 4 or 5 innings instead of 1," I feel like there's no real downside to this. Well, except that he might get hurt, but that's pitchers.
Sure. It's like, we'll give you twice through the order. Maybe at the beginning of the year, we'll test that third time through the order. If those numbers fall off a cliff that third time, you're going to be a twice through the order guy. I think I saw Jake from John Boy saying like 100 innings, 110 innings, something like that. Not pencil him in for that, but like aim for that.
Right.
Start most of the year, move to the bullpen, playoff time. There are worse ideas. In a pitching market, every team's screaming, we don't want to pay any of these guys. I've seen worse ideas. But it's like, would you rather try and take a guy can be, because he wasn't an elite reliever last year, to be fair. He has elite stuff, but last year it just wasn't there. Relievers are finicky. I don't think that paints the full picture with him. The Blue Jays went out and got Yariel Rodriguez officially. I feel like they had agreed to that a month ago, and for some reason it took until today. I also saw they do not have his passport shit figured out. Very funny. So
Very funny indeed.
I don't know Canada's laws with Cuba. I assume Canada just kind of copies us or England when it comes to their laws. So I'm sure they're not big Cuba guys based off like 70-year-old propaganda, but that's a different podcast altogether. But I like it. It's a guy, it's an unknown. It's someone who they tried to start in Japan, mixed bag, reliever in Japan, very effective. I still haven't seen numbers for this deal. So it's like, are they just trying to replace Hicks with him? Are they going to try and start him? I don't know that the Blue Jays should be seen as like the gold standard for building up arms in recent years. They've had a couple of elite guys come up to varying success. They've had some guys be unbelievable, get hurt, never heard from again. They've had guys be unbelievable, talk a lot of shit about how unbelievable they are,
be
and then
fat,
be in single A.
Be fat, and then be in single A. Yes,
Listen,
correct.
You can say whatever you want. That's not me.
I'm fat too, but fuck that guy. That's basically where I'm going with this. Fuck that guy. But yeah, you go.
So I don't know that this is the team that if someone's going to tap into his full potential, we may see like sparks of it with the Blue Jays. I don't know that he's going to be like a number 3 anytime soon.
Are we sure they're actually going to start him? Like, did they pay him to start
we don't. We're not sure.
Oh, yeah, we don't. Yeah,
I know he was working out majority as a starter, and my assumption would be the team he picked promised him at least a tryout to start. You know what I mean?
Right. So, like, it's one of those, like they'll see what he's doing in spring and all of that. So,
yeah.
I mean, he has good stuff. I mean, they paid him very reasonable rate. I kind of feel like this falls right into the Jordan Hicks bucket. Same kind of deal. Like, all right, paying him very reasonable money. Might as well give him a shot to start. We'll see how legitimate that shot is. And then we'll go from there. And yeah, their development, there isn't a lot there. I mean, granted, their park kind of took a step back as far as hitters and how hitter friendly it is. So that should, in theory, help. But we'll see what happens with him. I can't see him starting 2-3 years from now either. But at the bare minimum, they got a good reliever, and also like their pitching development. Granted, I don't have like a ton of examples. It hasn't been wonderful either. Like, there's not a whole lot of success stories there. I mean, I could point to that. Like, there hasn't really been a whole lot of those. Like, unless you want to count Kevin Gausman.
No, technically, I don't. No, because the Giants. The Giants count Kevin Gausman.
Oh, you know what? He came from the Giants. Never mind.
They haven't fucked up Kevin Gausman. I'll give him that, but I think he just remembers what the Giants. That's what kills me about certain guys. They'll play on a team, especially when it comes to pitchers. They'll play for a team, have it all figured out. They'll go elsewhere and stink. It's like, what did you forget? Like, what? What could you have possibly forgotten? I understand you're not talking to the same guys all the time. What could you have possibly? This isn't like that complex. It's still the same amount of feet to throw the ball, still the same size ball. Nothing's changed. Like, that's the part that kills me. So Gausman, they traded for Berrios, who Berrios is one of my favorite pitchers to watch. He doesn't really get the results I feel like his stuff should command.
And he never has. Now to be fair to him, like he came to Toronto, was bad the first year, maybe year and a half, and then he turned it around and he's his usual like number 3 starter self, which is cool, but they traded a lot for that. So
sure. They signed Bassett last year, who was great for them. But he's older too. Kikuchi was elsewhere, right? Was he a Twin too? Or no, am I just making shit up? No, Seattle. He was with Seattle.
He was Seattle, yeah. But
the guys I was talking about, like the homegrown guys, were Manoah, obviously. And Nate Pearson was a guy, when he first came up, I was like, fuck. Like, this is not a guy I want to have to deal with. He's been banged up. He made 7, or excuse me, he pitched in 35 games last year, mostly a reliever. But
he
this is a guy when
fucking 35 games. What the fuck was that? But yeah, keep going.
Well, I mean, if someone's just pitching out of the bullpen for a team that plays in Canada and he only pitches 35 games, you're probably not going to see most of those.
Fair point.
You know what I mean?
Fair point.
But he's the type of guy when he came up, I was like, oh, this guy's going to be elite. I know he got hurt. He missed the entire 22 season, but in terms of their homegrown guys, Manoah, what did he come in third in Cy Young 2 seasons ago at this point? Something like that. And then no one fell off a cliff harder, like in my life, from a season to season basis, especially the age he is. So that's where it's like, can they actually get the most out of a guy who like looked good in the World Baseball Classic for sure, looked good coming out of the bullpen in Japan, never really had the results as a starter, still in his 20s, so I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm saying, can the Blue Jays do it?
I wouldn't. There's nothing to point to for me to be like, yeah, I believe in them. Like I believe in their ability to do this. There's nothing there. There's nothing. They haven't. I mean, if you want to point to Manoah's 2 years ago, fine. But then you also have to account for why the fuck he turned into that a year later. So I don't know. There's nothing there that makes me feel confident in their development skills. But at minimum, he should be a useful reliever. So $8 million is whatever. So
yeah, some of the stuff I was reading today, very high spin rate guy, like natural spin rate, doesn't need to be taught a whole lot. So if at worst case he's a weapon, cool. I'm trying to think if anyone else notable signed. I don't feel like they did. Oh, I saw Kelnick was talking about the Mariners GM, given the comments he had last year, like he wouldn't sign Babe Ruth, and he only cared about winning like 50% of games over a decade. He was like, he said all this shit while we're like in a playoff race. Like nobody in that locker room wanted to hear about a 10-year outlook. We wanted to hear about how hungry we were to make the playoffs this year. We didn't want to hear about the 16-year-olds who haven't even signed yet that are going to do stuff. Like Julio's right here. What are we doing talking about a decade from now? That's insane.
Julio's there, and they got and we've heard about them in trade rumors over and over and over. They got a million young, promising arms, and they're still the fucking Lil Wayne holding his money meme. It's fucking ridiculous. Like you have Julio Rodriguez. Like you know how many people would kill to have a Julio Rodriguez? How many teams would? You have this guy. He's hit the ground running. He's had 2 really great years. You know what he is. He's a building block, face of your franchise kind of guy. And you're still running out that bullshit lineup every year. Like, what are we doing?
Even Julio's career, not his fault, started not on great terms with the Mariners when they were just like, yeah, he doesn't speak English great, so he can't really be the face of the franchise. It's like, what are you doing? What?
I didn't even know that happened. That is certainly one way to piss off your about to be star player. That's certainly one way to do it.
Mariners owner Julio Rodriguez. It was I want to pull it up. I want to see if I can find it because it was like the strangest thing to say before he ever came up. I don't even know what to Google for that.
And it's funny because if you read the scouting reports before he got here, all they could talk about was how good his English was. So it's like, I'll believe them. Fuck the owner. I'll believe them. And I don't know why the owner is even saying that out loud, even if it is true. Why are you saying this out loud? For what reason?
Maybe it wasn't about Julio specifically, but I mean, this is from February of 21. Mariners president apologizes for trashing players' English. Mariners
insane headline.
And CEO Kevin Mather issued an apology after a video surfaced on YouTube of controversial remarks he made at the Rotary Club. Like, of all the places, during the video conference, which lasted over 45 minutes, included a question and answer portion, Mather made racist remarks criticizing his own players' English skills, called a player overpaid, got the name of one of his prospects wrong, trashed the facilities of their own Class A affiliate, and admitted to manipulating the service time of the team's prospects. That's not even a full list of Mather's transgressions.
There's more?
Yeah. I'm going to pull up his statement that came out after. I want to apologize to every member of the Seattle Mariners organization. There's no excuse for my behavior, and I take full responsibility for my terrible lapse in judgment. It was 45 minutes. That's not a lapse. That's that's a
Lapse.
speech.
That's that's several lapses. If at minimum, that's several. That's about 35 lapses, bro. And 45 minutes worth. And you, bro, they got the list of transgressions is as long as a CVS receipt. It's just transgression after transgression after that's not a lapse.
My comments are my own. They do not reflect the views and strategy of the Mariners baseball leadership, who are responsible for decisions about the development and status of the players at all levels of the organization. I've been on the phone most of the day today apologizing to the many people I have insulted, hurt, or disappointed in speaking at a recent event. I am committed to make amends for the things I said that were personally hurtful and will do whatever it takes to repair the damage I've caused. I'm pretty sure. All right, so he was talking about Iwakuma, for instance. Yeah, okay, yeah, I was right. He talked about Iwakuma. He said, for instance, we just rehired Iwakuma. He was a pitcher for us for a number of years. Wonderful human being. His English was terrible.
Like how does that follow? He was a wonderful human being. Like on top of everything else here, how like wow.
It gets much worse. He wanted to get back into the game. He came to us. We quite frankly want him as our Asian scout interpreter. What's going on with the Japanese league? He's coming to spring training, and I'm going to say I'm tired of paying his interpreter. When he was a player, we'd pay Iwakuma X, but we would also have to pay $75,000 a year to have an interpreter with him. His English suddenly got better. His English got better when we told him that. When Mather was asked about top prospect Julio Rodriguez, he mentioned his command of English almost immediately. Julio Rodriguez has got a personality bigger than all of you combined. He is loud. His English is not tremendous.
What? Yo, what?
Rodriguez, this is not him anymore. Rodriguez, who is 20, has been taking English classes with the Mariners since he was 17. He did his first all English interview with The Athletic in 2018. This is 3 years before this. In that story, The Athletic reported that Rodriguez was so proud of that accomplishment, he immediately called his parents to tell them. Rodriguez didn't appear to appreciate Mather's comments about him. He posted a meme, Julio did, and it's just his face on Michael Jordan's, and I took that personally.
I remember that tweet. That was what that was about.
Yeah, it was about his owner saying he doesn't know how to speak English. So, yeah, that's the Mariners. That's Seattle Mariners.
Yes.
But yeah, I would almost like, he said all that. He still re-signed Julio. You know what I mean? Like, he still was able to do that. Fucking my owners, these dimwits, they just won't stop saying things, insane things. Even when they're like walking back the previous insane things they say, they introduce newer, more insane things. That blows my mind. I made a 30-minute video yesterday just recapping the walk back. Or no, it was Breslow kind of taking his first shot because he wants to protect his own ass when it comes to the eyes of Red Sox fans. He comes out and he's just like, hey, man, we're going to need these young guys to step up. But the guys above me are not cutting the checks. They are not opening up the purse. And so that was like extremely deflating to hear, just being like, yeah, we're a small market team now, is what he was admitting. So this is from Pete Abe for the Boston Globe. The question was, do you believe ownership is committed to competing at the highest level? The first sentence is like screaming to me. Like, the rest of it's also bad, but the first sentence was.
I just pulled that up, and I was going to ask about that sentence, because that looks like somebody who might have been told one thing and now they're on some other shit. Happened. And he's like, now that I know these dudes, I know they're on some bullshit. That's how I read to me.
Again, the question was, do you believe ownership is committed to competing at the highest level? That's a fair question. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, that's terrible. That's a terrible thing to say. And like, everything else after it's almost irrelevant, because It's not, he didn't say yes. He said, that's a fair question. I've been wondering that my fucking self, Pete. I'm glad you asked. As I've gotten to know the organization better through the conversations I've had with ownership, they are absolutely still supportive of assembling a World Series team as quickly as we possibly can. But I think the reality is that it's going to require a step forward from the young position players since Craig Breslow's been hired. All he's talked about is pitching. All he's talked about is pitching. Now the young 20-year-old position players really need to figure out how to fucking pitch, it sounds like. It's going to require the build out of a talent pipeline of arms that we can acquire, we can draft, we can develop internally. It's going to require aggressive player development in the minor leagues and the major leagues so guys that we think are the next wave, Meyer and Anthony and Teal, are not just big leaguers, but impact big leaguers. The convergence of all those pieces is the fastest path to a World Series team. We want to build this thing in a way that's not just quality once in a while, but there's quality paired with consistency. I can't think of a fucking easier way to do that than to sign good players already. Personally, that's how I view it.
I mean, but if you sign good players, how does that affect the guys you're trying to develop, Coley?
Positively. Only positively.
Are you sure? Because there isn't enough room for all of those egos in the locker room. Or am I wrong?
There's at least room for 26 of those egos, from what I can tell from the most recent CBA.
But you're not worried about team chemistry?
I mean, sure, but that's how... Like, we just, all free agents are assholes? Is that the counter? They're all bad people?
All free agents are indeed bad.
Just the worst humans you've ever seen.
Yeah, because how is Tristan Casas going to deal with, I don't know, fucking Jordan Montgomery making $150 million over 4 ERA? How's he going to deal with that? You think he's going to like that?
The funniest part, too, is, like, they asked Cora, like, oh, when you and Breslow were here at the same time, what kind of relationship did you had? He was like, none. Like, he was a pitcher, I was a utility infielder. We never even looked at each other in the face. Like, that's never gonna happen. So it's just like, what is this? What does this mean? This is horrible. So I reacted to this right after I'm done reacting to that. Fucking Tom Werner shows up, this dickhead, and he's like, he decides to say even something more insane. This is from Sean McAdam. Tom Werner on Full Throttle vow.
Oh,
quote,
boy.
Not the most artful comment. But that's not the most alarming part of what he said. He said, really? In the end, we don't have a line in terms of our payroll that we look at as much as trusting that Breslow is going to deliver on his assurance that we're going to be competitive. Brother, how is he supposed to deliver if he can't sign anybody?
How is he talking about? He's not the one signing the checks.
Ever.
What is he talking about?
It was all blame game yesterday. Breslow threw the first punch, which I appreciate because it starts before the Full Throttle comment. It started with firing Heim and immediately coming out and being like, we're fucking back, baby. We're signing everybody. And then, if you recall, every GM candidate from sea to shining sea turned down the Red Sox before they even got into the building. They were like, we don't want anything to do. We just saw what happened, what you just did to that poor man, to that poor sweet man, Heim. Why would I want to go in the exact same boat? What the fuck? Like, these people aren't fans of the Red Sox. They look at it objectively. They just saw how you treated the previous person in that seat. Why the fuck would they want to sign up for that?
After forcing him to trade Mookie Betts.
Correct. Yeah. Like, that was, like, correct. Werner also said in this punch back at Breslow, that's really all it is, was like, we really thought we had Yamamoto in the bag. It's like, what are you talking about? When did you, when? Like, I guarantee it was last winter. That's when they thought they had Yamamoto in the bag. Last winter. There's like no one's heard of this guy, and then the World Baseball Classic. They're like, fuck that might tip some people off. That's early though. Maybe
like,
we'll
damn,
forget.
we can't pay him $25 an hour no more. Fuck.
Like I would love to. I think they saw what Senga got last year. They were like, we've got that. And the Dodgers and Yankees and Mets got involved. They were like, we're all set. Like they still haven't even floated a fake offer because they know it will get refuted. Of what they could, like whatever they offered Yamamoto, it gets lower the more I think about, like 150.
Hey man, the Red Sox have dealt with a lot of embarrassment this offseason. From a good fan, reasonable fan perspective, I feel like they've embarrassed themselves plenty.
Yeah,
that's the one place where they saved themselves some embarrassment. Like, yes, they've commented on Yamamoto, cool. If that contract figure ever leaked, it'd be even more embarrassing. Because, bro, you got people dunking on the Yankees for offering $25 million as to what he got.
right.
Imagine the Red Sox offered him 10 for 120. What?
I hope it never comes out because I know it was nowhere near. Nowhere
if
near.
It was near, we would have heard about it already.
Absolutely. It would have been
front
page
that
news.
Shit weeks ago.
Like, it would have been.
We tried. Would have been on the front page of the newspaper. We tried.
If it was in the same ballpark as the three other teams we know, yeah, we would know it. It wouldn't be a secret. Even if it was
250,
right?
We would
yeah,
even
and like you know what I mean. It's like, listen, because you could justify that again. You could justify it's like, hey, we offered 250. He's literally never pitched in America before. That's the highest we would go for that level of unknown. Right. We still believe in him.
Argument to make.
Yeah, super easy. But they may not have offered 9 figures. Like it may have been like 90.
10 for 90.
Yeah. So I thought
but that's a crazy thing to say out loud though. Like because mind you, again, we just went over this. They didn't even leak their offer most likely because it stunk. And you're still telling us that you think you had Yamamoto in the bag. When though? Because you didn't operate like it this offseason, number one. So number two, like when was this that you thought it was in the bag, and why is that relevant? It's not like you offered him $275 million and he's like, all right. The Dodgers came in and were like, okay, man, big bank, take little bank, fuck out of here, and then gave him $350, told you to go pound sand. That's not what happened. We didn't get any offer from Boston. We just heard they're taking meetings. That's all we heard. And then once they took one meeting, we never heard about the Red Sox again with regards to Yamamoto.
I would imagine the beginning of the offseason, they probably mapped it out like the Dodgers are going to sign Ohtani. That's what everyone in the industry had thought, really, since the Dodgers started punting quality guys for the last 2 years. Just like, all right, they're going all in for Ohtani. There's no way they're going to game the system so that they still have cap space. Like, there's no way they're out of the Yamamoto sweepstakes. And it's like the Yankees, maybe they've already got a lot committed to Cole and Rodon and Judge, and, Stanton. Maybe they'll sit this one out. Now it's just us versus the Mets, and we're just going to bank on. They already have Senga. Maybe he wants his own team. He doesn't want to pitch with Senga. Senga's, I assume, wears 18, so he can't pitch there. So it's really just we're the only show in town, baby. That's, I assume, what happened. The second they saw Ohtani's contract structure, they had to be like, well, we're out. We have no shot. We have no fucking shot.
He deferred how much? His luxury tax number is what?
Yeah.
We're fucked. Yeah.
Like, I'm joking a little, but I guarantee you that's kind of how it played out. They just assumed the Dodgers wouldn't be involved, and it would be them versus the Mets, them versus the Cubs.
What's funny to me is like there are so many dominoes that have to fall for them to be the team anyway. Even if the Dodgers didn't exist, okay, then you have 2 New York teams in your way. Senga, like you have to rely on. Okay, well, if this and this and this and this and this didn't happen, or like we're the only show in town, we're option number 1, baby.
I also don't know And I'm not defending the Red Sox. I don't want it written that I'm defending the Red Sox. I don't know that the number gets that high if the Dodgers aren't involved.
I think it does simply because Steve Cohen's involved.
Sure, but even he in the past has set guardrails and parameters. He's backed out of deals, not backed out of deals like he's agreed to shit, but he said this is enough. So I think it probably settles around 250. Like I don't know that gets to 325.
Like the only thing I'll say in reference to that is Yamamoto's free agency was so abnormal that I don't know if like usual standards would come into play.
250 is abnormal.
Sure, but I mean, a 25-year-old free agent who projects to be really, really good is also abnormal because they're never 25 years old. They're always 28, 29, 30, whatever. So, like, who knows where it stops? But either way, what happened to the Boston Red Sox, man? What happened to a once proud franchise? What happened? Now they operate like the Pirates? This is nasty.
Well, I've even had, like, and these people have to work for the team because it's been some of the dumbest shit I've ever read. You can't make excuses for Heim. They still had a top 5 payroll when he took over. It's like, what was that of new money? Like, what of it? Story. Cool. Great. That's it. You know what I mean? That's it. That they weren't huge bloated payroll.
Who was the GM before him?
Dombrowski.
Okay. I figured that, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing somebody in between. So Dombrowski walked away or they fired him?
So that's the point. It was very quiet when he left. There wasn't a whole lot of reasons given. I remember there was something that was supposed to come out, and then that was proven to be either false or unprovable, so it never ran. But for a guy who, like, all he's known for, truly all he's known for, is spending, for him to be removed from the Red Sox mid-season after winning a World Series, after you allow him to sign Eovaldi and Chris Sale to extensions, and Steve Pearce, and I think he gave out one more, it never made sense the time they parted. And it also, like, they didn't even come out and slander him like they do literally fucking everybody. Charrington, Francona, David Ortiz. Like, no matter who it is, they'll come out with a hit.
Ortiz?
Every offseason they would. He played on perpetual 1-year deals because they're like, he's a fat DH. He's getting old. And then he would go out and hit 40 home runs and 60 doubles. And then they would argue over, like, RBI and A. Like, it was absurd how they treated Ortiz his whole career. Like, truly the face of the franchise. Should have a statue. They were like, we got 1 for 12 for you, pal. Like, and for some reason, no one else out there topped it. No one else ever was like, we'll give David Ortiz 3 years. That never happened. It was absurd that they kept getting away with it. But yeah, they called Francona a pillhead when they fired him. They called, I can't remember what they said about Charrington. They didn't need a big excuse to get off him. His approval rating was low, even though he was a fucking godsend. You talk about the deals you don't make. Matt Harvey and Cole Hamels, people in this town were foaming at the mouths for some Matt Harvey and Cole Hamels, and you can still go back and look up those proposed deals. It's like Mookie Xander plus other players for either of those fucking guys, and that would have absolutely torn apart. You remove literally 2 World Series from the Red Sox, and we don't have enough to be removing 2 World Series from the Red Sox. So that's where it's like, thank Christ for Ben Cherington. I'm glad he's running the Pirates now. He's doing a good job. Happy for Ben Cherington. Theo, they've called crazy. Theo is crazy, so that's fine. But like, there are certain people you should never say anything about. If you're the Red, you should be like, thank Christ that guy worked here and did so many good things for us. I don't give a fuck how many airplane crash black box calls he listens to. I'm fine with that. That's what Theo does. He's genuinely insane.
Okay, carry on.
But like, they fire Heim, they're like, this pussy couldn't get any deals across the finish line. And that Breslow watched that. He was living in Boston while he was working for the Cubs. He hears all of this. He's like, yeah, I'll still take the job. No one else wants to make me a GM yet. I think I can do it. And like, of course, the Red Sox lied about how much they'd be willing to spend. They had to. No one else was willing to sign with them until he lied. Like, nobody was even taking the fucking meeting other than in-house candidates.
What happened to them, man? Like, they lying to candidate. They couldn't get somebody to take the GM job of the Boston Red Sox, not the Pittsburgh Pirates, not the Kansas City Royals, not the Detroit Tigers, the Boston Red Sox. And they presumably, at least, had to lie to a candidate about what they were willing to spend to get him in the door and get him situated. And the first 2 sentences or whatever it was of that piece from Abe yesterday, from the quote rather, it's so damning. It's damning because it's just he is saying, listen, they told me one thing, now they doing the other. That's essentially what he's saying. He can't say that in those specific words, but he's fucking saying it without saying it.
Not yet. He's trying to get, like, it's all a play. He's trying to get them to, like, wake the fuck up. It's like, listen, to where I appreciate this from Breslow, he's like, listen, there's still guys who can help available. Like, it is not too late. If he's saying this in February after everyone signed, yeah, now it's like, all right, Craig, where was this 2 months ago?
Right.
Like, there is still time to salvage something here. So that's why I appreciate him going on the offensive. Like, listen, we can blow this if you want, or we can, like, I also read it as, like, I can't tell if he's saying we aren't trading these three specifically, everyone else is up for sale, or if he's trying to get someone else to be like, oh, they really like those guys, let's try and target one of them. I assume it's the former, but either could be at play here. But this is Boston. Like, you can't be selling the dream. I don't care how good you think the prospects are. I think they're all pretty good. Again, Teal I know the least about. I think they're all going to be pretty good. That's not a guarantee. No prospect's a guarantee. Literally none of them. And you just want to hitch your wagon to that and assume nothing bad could happen between now and then. Ryan Westmoreland was a former Red Sox #1 overall pick. Do you know how many professional games he played at the major league level?
I'm going to guess 0.
0. He got fucking brain cancer. You don't know what's going to happen between minors and majors. Anything could happen. Literally anything. He's still alive.
Took a wild left turn.
Yeah, because you don't know. Like, he was a healthy 21-year-old. Like, that shit doesn't happen until it does.
That's a wild left turn. But yes, thankfully he's alive and well all of that. But yeah.
Of course. I wouldn't bring him up if he just, like, dropped dead. Like, that would be
I hope not.
I still might. But that's not the point. The point is you don't know. I don't care how good someone's pedigree is. Jurickson Profar, no cancer. So let's start there. Jurickson Profar was in the fucking Little League World Series trotting around the bases.
That's how prospect.
Good he was. They don't make prospects more sure thing than Jurickson Profar. He's been a 0 WAR player for most of his career. Like, he's just a guy. He's literally just, and I like Jurickson Profar, especially because of the Little League World Series thing, but he's just a guy. Like, every team has a Jurickson Profar. You don't know. You do not know.
And I'm going to make a Yankees parallel real fast. But the year before last, when Volpe was a prospect and, you know, he was getting helium and all of that, that was right before Seager and Trey Turner were free agents.
Mm-hmm.
And now, granted, the Yankees weren't as, aggressive in naming these guys publicly as the Red Sox are, but it's the same principle, and it's so disgusting to me because, like, besides the idea of, wow, look at us, big market team, we're going to rely on these youngsters and nobody else when you could easily, sign good players to play with them. But besides that, bro, you're putting unnecessary heat on them. For what? Like, you didn't have to mention them by name. Right. Am I saying that those guys are going to succeed or fail based off what was said yet? No. But they come up and they go over 18, they're going to get some boos. And that's not about them. And hell, it's not even about the fans. They can't boo the fucking GM and they can't boo the fucking owner. So they're gonna boo the players. Unfortunately, that
is them booing the owner. In that specific instance, that would be them, especially here. And I've seen a lot of people being like, these are prospects for the Red Sox. They already have pressure. Like, this didn't add pressure. Yes, it did. Two things can be true.
That's bullshit. Yeah, right. They had pressure, now they have more. Because they have more because they're putting the weight of the fucking franchise on their shoulders. Of course, there's more pressure.
Right. Now they're saviors.
Drop them. Like,
now they're saviors instead of people to be excited about. Now it's like, all right, well, I guess I shouldn't care about this team until they get called up in 2 years. Like, they're not knocking on the door. Meyer's
right.
working back from injury. They were just at Fenway yesterday. So Meyer's rehabbing. He's was hurt all last year. He's ready to go this year, but he's not like going to be called up this year. He shouldn't either. Like, if these are the faces or the future of the franchise, there's no need to fast track them. Make sure they're fucking ready when they come up. Anthony wasn't supposed to, like, he was supposed to make the leap he made last year this year. So it's one of those things, like, is he going to regress? Is he going to level out? I don't think so, but it's on the table. And Teal was drafted in fucking July. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this is not someone, unless they're fast tracking him. He's a catcher. I don't care as much. And he's 23, whatever he is. He's the oldest of the three.
Right.
But he's also, no offense to him, he's not Adley Rushman. Like, that's not what he's projected to be. He's projected to be solid, but he's not projected to be like the best catcher in the league.
And that's another insane part of this. Like, he looks like a good prospect, not knocking him at all. If you're putting these big, heavy expectations on them three, or to put it simply, the three dragons meme. That's what this is. But that's what this is. Roman and Marcelo are the ones with the eyes closed, and then he's the one with the big ass eyes. Like, he's nice. He ain't on that level of prospect, and you're just throwing him in there. This 23-year-old catcher you just drafted, you throw him in there with Marcelo and with Roman because they're supposed to be the franchise savers / changers, and we're supposed to sit here and also say there isn't additional pressure as they name drop them. It's not even like they said, listen, we're going to build in an economical fashion, and we're going to build around our prospects. Is that still putting pressure on them? Yes. Is that naming them fucking specifically? No. No, it would be your whole farm. Like, all right, we have a lot of good prospects we like. You know, I don't know. I can't name a single pitcher in your system, but I'm sure they exist. Like, some of them. Everybody, it's a team effort. No, you name 3 people specifically. Like, yeah, we're going to build around these 3 people. Yes, you're putting more fucking pressure on them. Especially when, again, a lot of the fan base is furious. If they keep doing this same shit, the fan base is going to continue to be furious. And who are they going to fucking take it out
on? Teal's 21, too, to be fair. He turns 22 in February, so he's not 23. He will be when he gets up here, but...
Okay, so he's not... Okay.
I'm reading his... from Sox prospects. Summation. Potential average regular as a defense first catcher who's also adds some value at the plate. Ceiling of an impact everyday catcher. If his bat continues to develop, likely will develop into a hit over power type, high baseball IQ, and leader who should be able to handle the rigors of catching at the major league level. Described as having a very carefree personality, likes long walks on the beach. Great value pick at 14th overall in 2023 that comes with a high floor due to his defensive profile. That is not, and again, I like the pick, like the kid, not much to dislike about him. That's not the guy you're like, we can't sign any free agents. We've got Kyle Teal at home. Like, that's not how you run. That's how you run the Pirates, for sure. It's not how you run the Red Sox.
Crazy to me. Dude.
I'm not even
he's not Francisco Alvarez, bro. Like, what are we talking about?
Like, I'm not someone who cares about the last 2 years in the sense that it's like, oh man, they came in last place. What's going on? Like, that's not how I feel about it. It's like, yeah, they just weren't that great last year. They were in last place in the AL East. They would have been like second in the AL Central. Like, that's not the same to me. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, oh God, you got to fix everything. That's not it. It's more like, yeah, you have these guys. I'm excited to see them grow and hopefully reach this level. I also want to watch a competitive team next year. I'm not someone who needs like, oh, they need to be in the World Series every single year or it's a failure. No, that's not really it. Like, they need to be competitive though. And last year there were sparks of competitiveness. The year before, sparks of competitiveness, nothing sustained. That's where it's like, what these guys several years off. Like, if I gun to my head, you're going to tell me Kyle Teal or Miguel Blaze is going to be better at baseball long term, I'm still picking Blaze's upside, no doubt. Yeah. Like, not even close.
Same. And the thing is with the Red Sox, they're also operating like their team last year was just way worse than it was. Like they were a regular garden variety average team. Like they had the 10th best offense in baseball. Like their pitchers can't speak to what their pitchers have doing. I'm assuming not well, right? So they were an average baseball team. A signing here and a signing there, and you're talking about maybe a playoff team. And yes, I
Right.
understand that nobody is jumping for joy to finish 88 and 74 and make the playoffs. Understood. Bro, the playoffs is a crapshoot. We've been over this 1,000 times. The fucking Diamondbacks just made the World Series. So, like, yeah, making the playoffs is meaningful and important. And of course, on top of that, you have a trade deadline.
That's what I
People
was going to
bolster
say.
themselves at the trade deadline all the time, year after year. So you're gonna sit that out, and you're gonna sit free agency out, despite the fact that your team is not that bad. And nobody's asking you to go out there and sign dudes to $300 million contracts. It would be nice, obviously, for y'all.
Sure.
Like, it'd be nice, but can you just try? Like, bare minimum, just try. Try.
And I
It's
keep
not it's
saying
not a
it.
hard ask.
I keep saying it too. Like, it doesn't even make sense if your idea is like, hey, we really want to be World Series ready by the time they come up. When you trade for Pedro, you were 6 years away from the World Series. You know what I mean? They weren't
Right.
knocking on the door when they acquired him. When they signed Manny, they were 4 years away from the World Series. That's kind of how it starts. You know
And
what
like
I mean?
I'm not saying they had enough to get Juan Soto, for example. Juan Soto's 26. Like you could have gotten him and then you could have paid him. Like Juan Soto's going to be good for a long time. Obviously, that's the outlier. Fine, but he's going to be good for a long time. Like you don't have to sit there and wait until 3 years from now. Like what kind of bullshit is that for a big market team? On top of that, like just don't
Yeah.
block their positions. It's not fucking complicated. It's not
Or move
complicated.
the young guys. They moved Mookie because they had Pedroia. You know what I mean? Like he
Right.
was a second baseman. They moved him to the outfield. He
Like I
just
don't know
happened
shit
to
about
become.
Marcelo Meyer's defense. Can he play center? Maybe. Maybe. Can he play right? Can he play left? Maybe. Like his bat is his main calling card. Find a way to fucking play him. It's not complicated. Roman Anthony, he's an outfielder. That shouldn't be complicated. Just play
Yeah.
them. It's not complicated. It's not hard. Just don't block them. It's easy enough. You got other positions to worry about. Just don't block them long term. You could sign dudes to 2-3 year deals. Listen, Marcus Stroman just went for $40 million for 2 years. So miss me with we gotta wait until everything aligns perfectly with the timeline of guys that we don't even know they're gonna be good. Come on, man. Come on, it's ridiculous.
And
And
it's
that's coming from
like
me. It's fucking ridiculous.
when, like we alluded to earlier, when the Dodgers were strategically letting Trey Turner, Max Scherzer,
Corey
and
Seager. Yep.
Seager walk, the whole industry was like, oh, they want to sign Otani, and they probably will. There's none of that happening with the Red Sox. Like they're doing all these things strategically because they're just going to sign Soto when he hits free agency. Like, why would they trade for him? They know they're going to sign him. There's none of that. There's no reason to believe that's how they're operating. There's no reason to believe they're going to fork over $550 million to sign Juan Soto next offseason. None.
And you brought this up in the video you did yesterday. If this was going to be what it was, then you should have traded Devers. Why is he on the I don't remember what the contract details are. I'm sure he's on the books for like what
341?
341 for what, 10?
No, it was like
12?
13, I think. Let me
13?
see.
Okay, so he's on the books for call it $30 million a year, or close enough, 25, somewhere in that range. Why did you commit so much money to him if this was going to be how you operated? Would it not have made sense to, let's say with 2 years left of team control to trade him? If this was what you were going to do, why did you sign Rafael Devers for $341 million contract? Because the thing is, they've established that they don't care about good PR. Well, they do. Sorry. They go about getting it in all the wrong ways anyway. So
Right.
like it couldn't have been about PR why they signed him to that deal. So what the fuck was it about then if they were going to do this shit?
11 for 331
Okay.
was
So
the final.
okay. So like 29 or so a year. Yeah.
Yeah, they deferred like 75 because that's
Okay.
the amount they think they can defer. Um,
Right.
yeah, it was 10 because he had already signed his last year of arbitration, and then it was 10 for 313. So they just folded in the 20 or whatever of arbitration onto it. So yeah, that was
Like, I don't know what the point of
indefensible.
signing him to that is if you're not going to actually build around him and you're going to hit me with shit like, oh, we're building around our prospects. Then what was the point?
Right. You could have gotten more.
Exactly, and you could have gotten whatever you wanted, more or less, because Rafael Devers is one of the best players in the sport, one of the best hitters in the sport. You could have gotten whatever the fuck you wanted. Like you're not going to get a Soto return, but it wouldn't be that far off.
And it's also one of those things, depends when you move them. Like you could have. You definitely could have.
Right, and I'm saying they should have moved them with 2 years of team control left, or at least like 1.5, something like that. Because if this
Oh,
was going to be the plan, that's what you should have did. You could have maximized your return at that point.
yeah, it's indefensible as you look at the team right now. That can obviously change. You'd be thrilled to have them if you're going to operate like a team that gives a fuck, but that's not how they're operating at all. Right now, they're in
Exactly.
a public war with the GM they just hired. That's how they're operating. So it's like, all right, cool,
That's
awesome.
public war with the GM they just hired is insane and true, but insane all the same.
And it's like, there's still plenty of offseason to fix it. But you have also taken away, like if you were to sign a Jordan Hicks, which is not something I'm like, you need to sign Jordan Hicks, but if you do want to do something creative like that, you're running out of time for that guy to physically stretch his arm out. Like you're you know what I mean? Like the Giants kind of signed him almost at the, and I'm sure he's been working out this offseason with the intent of like, I'm going to start. It's much easier to ramp down than ramp up. So if all they could get was a reliever deal, he would have been fine. But if your idea is, because this is what I was talking about earlier, right now, Breslow talked about after he said that shit about like, yep, we're focused on Meyer, Anthony, and Teal. He was like, our rotation right now is Bayo, Giolito, Crawford, Pavetta, and one of three will try out for it, or three guys will try out for it. One will get that fifth spot between Josh Winkowski, who has genuinely only ever been good as a reliever, and he was great as a reliever last year. I don't want to undersell him, but he was dog shit as a starter before that, so that's where that comes into play. Garrett Whitlock, again, elite reliever, not that good of a starting pitcher, even if he's shown flashes. That was fucking 3 years ago at this point. And Tanner Houck, who is probably the most consistent starter out of the three, and you know he cannot get through two turns of the rotation. Like people see him for a third time, it's batting practice immediately. And he's another guy who's elite as a reliever. So it's like, all right, we're talking about trading Kenley, and now we're also talking about dangling three of our best relief options. Chris Martin's our best reliever. Shout out him. He's 500 years old, and he's in the last year of his deal.
Right.
What's the plan? What's the actual like real plan? Because that can't be that just can't be the plan. Noah Song?
Not spend
Noah
money.
Song's ready.
Not spend money. That's the only plan they got. Not spend money, piss their GM off, or I don't know if he's pissed off. He better be, but go war with your GM in public in January, and cancel events for the fans too while you're at it.
Yeah, I just don't know why anyone would want to go like pay to see a game there right now. Second most expensive ticket in the sport. There's no way to get to the the fields. Like the train's half-mile away. Parking around there is legitimately $60, $70. I don't know the appeal other than like being outside in Boston in the summertime, which is beautiful. I love being in Fenway. It's one of my favorite places to be. I've sat there for some dog shit teams, but it's while those prospects were playing. It was while Jackie was in center and Xander was at third and Mookie was in right. And they still had like Brock Holt and Steven Drew playing shortstop for some reason. But the guys who were the future were already there. They weren't in Worcester. They weren't in fucking Greenville. You know what I mean? They weren't in Florida because they were just drafted and they were in the developmental camp. They were out on the field. I could watch them. And there weren't a lot of other people there. It was also my point. Like it was kind of just me sitting wherever I wanted to because that's not how Red Sox fans care to watch the sport. You could say, hey, this exciting Raph. I remember when Rafael Devers was in Greenville and Salem hitting the dog shit out of the ball. It was sick. They also had just acquired Chris Sale and were making an earnest effort. Now they were getting bounced in the first round, but you could tell they were making an effort. You can tell they were competitive. People around here don't buy that bullshit. They're not going to literally spend money on dog shit. And that's kind of what you're selling them right now. Good luck.
I think that's a great way to end the show. I have nothing to add, man. That's true.
Can't wait to see who signs tomorrow. It won't be with the Red Sox, but I just can't wait to see who signs.
Somebody go sign or get traded. One of the two.
Yeah, what's the next sizable move that happens?
Fuck if I know. Matt Chapman? I don't fucking know. Matt Chapman to the Giants? I don't know, dude. I have no fucking
Matt
clue.
Chapman's name once. Not
dude,
one time.
I am still waiting for somebody to tell me where the fuck Rhys Hoskins is going to go, who's interested. I'm waiting for something. Like, it's a 120 OPS plus bat just sitting there. Yes, he plays first base, but whatever. DH, I don't give a fuck. There's a 120 OPS plus bat that you're not going to have to pay that much for, and you're not going to have to pay long money for him either. And I've heard not a hint. Nothing. Like, I heard the Cubs for like 5 seconds. They traded for Michael Busch. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Michael Busch. Thank you. He's finally free. Thank you. I've been wanting to see Michael Busch actually get regular playing time for fucking somebody for now like 4 fucking years. He's like 26 now. Finally, he's going to get his shot.
Just looking up his age. I believe he is 26.
He's legitimately 26.
Yeah.
Thank 26. You, God, he's getting his fucking shot. Shout out to the Dodgers and Cubs for making that happen. I appreciate it. I know the Dodgers are blocked everywhere, so I understand why it happened, but thankfully he's about to get his shot. But yeah, man, nobody wants to sign Rhys Hoskins, like Cody Bellinger. Like, I'll ignore the Boris clients because we kind of know what's going on there. They're just staring at each other like that Odell, like the Puffy and the dude Jeff, where they're just staring at each other. That's what it is. Like, if you think the fucking asking price on Blake Snell right now apparently is 9 for $270, brother. If you think 31-year-old Blake Snell is getting 9, I mean, granted, I don't think Boris actually thinks this shit, but just in general, if you think he's getting 9 for $270, I have nice riverfront property in Harlem to sell you for half off. Please come get it. Like 9 for $270, you're out of your fucking mind. But who's gonna sign next? I don't fucking know. Somebody gonna sign tomorrow because that's how the show goes. Everybody signs on fucking Thursdays, so for some reason, and then it is what it is. But it won't be the Red Sox.
No, I'm gonna go outside the box. It's not gonna be a signing; it'll be a trade. Randy Arozarena to the Mets. That's my prediction.
Okay, that's a random one.
The Mets and Braves. It was International Signing Day the other day, which I don't know how that's still allowed. But it was
same.
International Signing Day. The Braves signed, it seems like the next Acuna, so that's horrifying. And the Mets seems like they had quite a day. They also signed Vlad Guerrero Jr. Like, they've just signed another Vlad Guerrero. I'm so sick. You want to talk about the Red Sox pissing me off? I'm so sick of all these Vlad Guerrero Jr. clones, literal clones coming up, and us getting fucking none of them. Like that. What are you doing? You want an easy win? Sign a Vlad child. I don't care if they ever make it. I'll be happy that moment.
At least you gave it a shot. And the bloodlines are great, obviously.
Yeah, they signed a lot of players out of the Bahamas, which I don't hate. Trying to get into that untapped market after like Jazz's from there. I'm pretty sure he's from the Bahamas.
Yeah, he is.
Chavano Healed from the Bahamas, different sport entirely, but nevertheless, people are starting to look into the Bahamas. One of them, Red Sox Stats, tweeted me a video. Shout out Stats, a true sicko, like grinding international signing videos the day of. The percentage of these guys who make it. Now, when they make it, they fucking hit, brother. They hit.
They make it, bro.
But if you didn't see, did you see the picture of the Brewers signing just from the DR?
Yes. what was it, like 45 people?
They signed the whole 18th Street. They were like,
They-
"Oh, come on down, boys. We got contracts
Yo,
for you."
they
And I
signed
can't say
fucking
I hate the
everybody.
strategy. They're like, one of you motherfuckers is gonna make it. One of you, I promise. One of you will
And
make
if it's more than one, then we got it, dude. If it's more than one, we
Oh
got
God,
it.
they're winning 10 World Series in a
If
row.
there's more than one, yo, we got it. And then I'm not surprised after them hitting on Jackson Trio. I'm definitely not surprised at their approach to this. Oh, we got one we like. All right, let's go sign 40 of them and let's see if 2 of them hit.
Yeah, so the Red Sox, I'm looking at their signings now. This is like 40 names. Most of these players will never leave like the island they live on right now. That's just the truth of how this works out.
Yep.
I'm trying to see what year did Devers sign? Was that like 13? Yeah, it was 13. Nailed it. So Rafael Devers in 13, just to give people some perspective. One, he was signed in 2013. He didn't make his debut until like late 17, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Which is pretty fast, honestly, for that. But he wasn't
He
even
was 20.
Like he wasn't a everyday regular in 18. You know what I mean? Like he was getting DMPs in the World Series for other guys. He didn't get the biggest signing bonus that signing period. Dalia Hinojosa did, who did make it to the bigs, but not for long. He got
clearly.
I mean, it is what I'm not even trying to take shots at the guy.
I know. I've never heard of him. So like that was my point. Never heard of him.
They had 5 guys from the signing period make it to the bigs. Emmanuel De Jesus, never heard of him. Jonathan Diaz, JH for Jonathan, unfamiliar with his work. Darwinson Hernandez, very familiar, thought he was going to be really good. Wasn't.
I love Darwinson Hernandez. He gave me one of my favorite moments of the last like 3 years.
Which home run?
The grand slam by Stanton.
Oh, sure. Was that when Stanton was just locked in against us at the
end of the year? For like an entire weekend, he was destroying y'all. Yeah.
Yeah. And Darwinson signed. So Hinojosa signed for $4 million. Devers signed for 1.5. What do you think Darwinson signed for?
$100K.
$7,500.
How is this allowed, bro? How is this allowed?
They signed someone out of Japan for $0. I don't know how that's legal.
Excuse me? Like, signing what? Like, what are you signing for $0 though?
They have people listed here as NA, like they just don't know the amount. 0 is written right above those. Like that's what the contract was. The contract was 0. Like we'll get you a plane ticket, pal.
But that's it. That's all you got. Everything else all you.
Yeah,
fucking 4 figures though. Insane.
2012, Manny Margot was who they gave their 3rd highest signing bonus to. He's obviously still a solid everyday regular, but the Dodgers are still trying to like flip him. They don't really want him either. It's going to be his 5th team at this point.
I totally forgot he got traded. Like I knew Glasnow got traded. Obviously, I just totally forgot he was part of it.
Here we go. 2010, Frankie Montas got 7,500. Oh no, excuse me, 75 grand. 75 grand. Is this Alexi Agondo? No, it's not. Different Agondo. Xander was the guy they gave the 4th highest bonus to. He got 410. Jose Iglesias was the guy they gave $6.2 million to. Everyday regular. Superstar was number 4. It's so hard. Yohan Moncada.
There's no rhyme or reason to any of this stuff.
They signed Yohan Moncada and Rusney Castillo the same offseason.
Rusney Castillo, man. All-time bag getter. All-time bag getter. That guy got $80 million or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he basically never played in the majors. I don't know if did he ever play in the majors?
He did, yeah.
He did? Okay.
They tried the BBC outfield. Betts, Bradley, and Castillo. I promise you that's what they were calling it. Like those 3 were calling it that.
You want to repeat it one more time?
The BBC outfield. That's what they were calling it. Again, they were calling it that. And it did not catch.
They, yeah. The BBC outfield is madness. And how have I never heard that? That is.
I mean, that should have been all-time great.
It should have been. The BBC outfield. Sickos.
So Brian Bayo got 28 grand in July of 2017. Cedar Rafael of the same year, July, got 10K. Daniel Flores, a catcher. Is he even still in the system? No, never came over. Never came over. Never came over. It's a guy you paid the highest bonus to. That's international free agency. You're either going to get the best player in the league, like Acuna, or you're going to just give someone $3 million. They're going to go
a whole bunch of nothing. There's one prospect that I care about in the international free agent signing period, and that's Leo DeVries. So he's going to be him. That is all.
El Mutante?
Is that what they call him?
Is that the guy the Padres signed?
Yes.
Then yes.
I'm even more convinced it's going to be him. Thank you for sharing that with me. Didn't know they call him El fucking Mutante, but I'm very convinced that he's going to be him.
That was how I found out about the Red Sox Bahamian prospect, was because I quote tweeted, when the fuck was that? Yeah, here it was. Yeah, the Padres, they call him El Mutante.
Fire.
And I said, seems extremely cool. He said, what's the Red Sox said, what's the coolness outlook on this kid from the Bahamas the Red Sox are signing? And he just hits a shot to right field. Absolute shot. He takes 4 strides, and then flips it right off the bottom of the moon. Just an all-time bat flip.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm all in. And it's the best tape to watch because it's like the worst field you've ever seen. You don't know why it's even being videotaped.
What was his name? Or what is his name?
I didn't even see it. It didn't come with a name. He just said this kid from the Bahamas. We signed 3 of them at least. So he's either, let's pull it up. It's either Tavano Baker, love the name. Who else is Bahamas here? Edwin E.J. Darville. Okay. They even have Tejahari Trent Wilson. So it's one of those 3.
Okay.
Vlad Asensio was, I believe, our big signing out of the DR. $1 million.
You could pay. Somebody could come in and pay me $5 million right now to name one person the Yankees signed, and I'd be like, I ain't got it, bro.
I got somebody. Like obviously, it's so sinister, and I could do 2 hours on how disgusting international free agency is outside in this part of the world. But it seems like very much like each team gets one of like the top 30 guys. Like they're very much like everybody gets, it's like a draft, but not a draft. It's very strange. How it goes down. It looks like this Dominican outfielder was, Francisco Delorio, excuse me. 1.7 mil. Halloween birthday, like that.
Good for him.
Number 15 prospect out of all of them. And they signed Dexter Peralta, who's a switch hitting shortstop. That was the other big one I saw. And then the rest, I'm sure the best of all of them is somewhere in this list of names. We'll find that out in 5 years.
And Henry Lillane is going to be him. That has nothing to do with this. Oh, excuse me? Stink. He's an 18-year-old Dominican from the Bronx.
He's a 1918s news reporter that has a radio show. Listen, that's who he is.
I'm not going to argue what his name sounds like. Okay? Because Henry Lillane, that like when I found out he was Dominican, I was like, that is an interesting name for a Dominican. But he is going to be him. Dominican Randy Johnson. He's going to be him.
I keep hearing about fucking Spencer Jones. Oh, he's Aaron Judge all over again. No one thought Aaron Judge was going to be Aaron Judge. Now Spencer Jones is Aaron Judge. All right.
It's insane that comp continues to be made, because it's like if he was 3 inches shorter, we wouldn't be talking about this. Even with like the same exact skill set, we wouldn't be talking about this. So it's stupid. But I like Spencer Jones. I would prefer them not to trade him, because I think he can be the big power guy with speed who gets on base. And he can defend too. I'm not really that concerned about that, as long as you're not a butcher. But yeah, I like his upside. But he's not Aaron Judge. But if he wants to prove me wrong, by all means, please do. But he's not Aaron Judge.
When did you draft in 22? Okay, I was like,
yep.
Why does he not have numbers?
Yeah,
like counting stats.
Yep.
55 stolen bases over a year and some change.
Boy can move.
That's
this big ass can move, man. Yeah, this big ass can move. He can move.
Yeah, nice. Thanks.
He can move, and that's why he's untouchable. He's not going for anybody.
They should for sure, like in the right package, move him, not just like for shits and giggles.
No, you're not wrong. I just don't think that you're not wrong, but I'm just very much trade the prospects guy in general. Like, as long as it makes sense to, I'm just that guy. But do I think Dylan Cease is the right guy to trade him for? No, I do not. So thus, what I'm saying is he ain't going nowhere. Like because if Dylan Cease ain't it, like trade market wise, I don't see who else is.
No, that would have already happened if, like, you wouldn't have signed Stroman. In my estimation, it would have just been like, "Oh, you want this? Sure, I don't give a fuck."
The only reasonable counter I could think of is, Dylan Cease. If you just have to give prospects, like his price tag is reasonable as far as the salary goes. Like, that's the only reasonable thing I can say. But for the most part, you're right, and it goes to my point. If you're a Yankee fan and you're looking for another big acquisition this offseason, you probably should stop looking. Like, they've done their heavy lifting. If Jordan Montgomery's price tag sinks to the point where he falls in their lap, maybe that changes. Blake Snell, same thing applies. I could see a world where if for some reason Blake just doesn't get what he wants, him signing some high AAV 3-year deal. I could see that being a thing the Yankees take interest in. But besides that, bro, it's over. Like their offseason for the most part is done. They'll sign a couple of relief pitchers, maybe. They'll bring back Peralta. They'll bring back Keenan Middleton. And they'll sign a couple spare pieces here and there. Also, the heavy lifting is over.
I don't know what I did, but all right. The screen just went away. So I don't know how panicked I looked, but I was like, I'm not going to be able to end the recording. I'm not going to be able to find this. I still don't know how I got it back, to be quite frank with you. So I'm going to end it now.
You did look a little bit like something was going on. So
yeah, I was like, wait. All I did, like, I clicked on. I was just reading about like Spencer Jones, and then all of a sudden this went away. And I was like, that's troublesome, but I could still hear you, which made it more troublesome because I was like, I need it somewhere around. It's not on either screen I have. So that would have been bad. So I'm going to end it just in case some wild shit like that happens again. Excited to see who signs tomorrow. That Arozarena trade will be interesting. We'll see you guys next week.